Good afternoon, it's Thursday 30 April 2020 and welcome to the 41st update since COVID-19 has been confirmed in Namibia. Coming to you from Namibia Media Holdings. With me today is Jareen Hoff from Windhoek Express. Good afternoon, Jareen.
Hi Donnie, thanks for having me again.
Now we're a bit later than usual, it's 5:15. The reason being that we also wanted to share with you what State House announced today in terms of relaxing the lockdown. Jareen, we must agree that there are some good news, not all good news, but there are
generally, I think everybody, or a lot of business people especially, are very much relieved that many of the businesses can start again. I think the people are most worried, unfortunately, about alcohol.
But let's not talk about that now. President Hage Geingob this afternoon announced that as from Tuesday, we will be moving to stage 2. What we are now in is stage 1, therefore, and we will quickly show you a summary of what stage 2 exactly entails. Just waiting for the producer to bring that up. So first of all, important is the duration. It's from Tuesday 5 May until the 1st of June. Face masks will be worn in public spaces. People will be allowed to travel, Jareen, domestically without restrictions. So within your town or city and between the different regions. So that's also,
which is good news for tourism.
It's also
local
at least
tourism.
For local tourism. But yeah, borders remain closed still for non-Namibians. If Namibians return, still the compulsory 14-day quarantine. And then business and productive activities, unless prohibited, will be permitted to resume. Now that is quite vague, but they then follow with a following list of businesses that may continue. So we look at that quickly. First of all, shopping malls and retail, so other retail and shops, restaurants and kapana.
Although
guys,
takeaways
they might
only,
do that, but only takeaways still.
Yes.
So you may not eat at the restaurant or at the kapana vendor in your informal settlement. Buying and selling of alcohol remain prohibited. Beauty salons, hairdressers and barbers, they'll also be allowed to open, as well as laundromats and tailors, Jareen. So, but the point there is also that strict health and hygiene requirements must be met before you can do business. It's a bit unclear how they will monitor this and which businesses fall within the vague description of productive business. But they're not on this list. So I think we should hopefully, when the regulations are published, get a bit more detail.
Yes, for sure. But I think under the female population, everybody is very glad that we can get to our beauty salons and hair salons again.
Yes, so I can have my beard cut once again as well. Let's quickly look at that, which is not allowed. Theatre and cinema still closed, gyms and exercise centres, contact sport and sporting events. So non-contact sport people will be allowed to do. Gambling houses and nightclubs remain closed, as liquor outlets, bars and shebeens. No entertainment events or concerts, that will still have to be done online, and no seminars, conferences, workshops and summits. So in the original document, Jareen, they said a meeting may still only be 10 people. The president didn't repeat that. It's also not in his press statement. So
we'll have to wait and see if 50 will be allowed now.
Yeah, but I think it seems it's still 10. When we get to stage 2, which will unless they review it, will start on the 2nd of June. Then they will review how big a legal meeting might be, and then we'll also be able to go and have a real beer.
Because after homeschooling your children, you will need it.
Yes, you'll be able in stage 3 to buy alcohol, but only for takeaway. In other words, you won't be able to drink at the bar or shebeen or at the restaurant, for that matter. However, you'll be able to eat at the restaurant, but not drink. So if you want to drink, you have to take it away home. It's a bit of a contradiction. And then in stage 4, finally from 30 June, hopefully Jareen, they will start opening up the borders again for visitors with restrictions, also allowing flights and normal teaching face-to-face to restart from the 30th of June also, unless education in the meantime comes to a different conclusion. So it's a foregone conclusion. We are moving to 4 quarters of schooling, at least as far as state schools are concerned. Do you think that's a positive change?
I still have to wrap my head around it. Yes and no. At least it does give the schools a lot of time to clean up, as they said they were aiming to do. I'm not sure if closing a school at the end of May next year or your school year is really going to be ideal, because there are a lot of knock-on effects and impacts that has too. But at this stage, I mean, what do we really want to do?
Yes, safety and lives, President Geinkop emphasized this afternoon, still
remains a priority.
Remains the biggest priority. So yes, that's ECD centers, primary schools and secondary schools to resume. They even say only in August, it seems, but we'll clarify that for you a bit later.
I think a big issue for many parents that are starting to work again on Tuesday is, what do they do with their kids? Because the kids need to be homeschooled. Who's taking care of them? What's going to happen to the kids? Because you can't send them to an ECD center or to kindergarten or school. So I think that is a very big headache for many parents.
It seems domestic workers will also be allowed to return to work from Tuesday. So my house looks like a bomb exploded there. But so maybe I'll be able to get in some help. We've got something in the basket here, Jenny.
Yes.
So first of all, you must take it out. And we're going to have a little glass of something. Jareen, just say what it is.
To reiterate, this is alcohol-free, but it has a bit of a sparkle in it. Yeah. So what we are celebrating is, well, this is our last official Corona show. As from Tuesday, the 5th of May, we have a new show that takes the place of our Corona show at 1 o'clock. And that is NMH at 1. That is for Namibia Media Hub at 1. And we're very excited about what the future holds for us. And viewers can definitely look forward to a program that is chock and block with interesting news of the day and contributions from all over the country, including other media personalities. We're very excited about it.
Yes, there you see the new lingo.
The logo and jingle.
That's the new logo and jingle. And NMH at 1.
Yes.
Namibia, one nation at 1. And also to the lockdown being relaxed a bit.
Yes, thank goodness.
Cheers, Jerry.
Here we go.
Cheers to you as well. And I almost said something, but I'm not going to say now. Stay tuned for the rest of the show. We've got still a lot of stuff to share with you this afternoon. Up next, very quickly, just the latest official data in terms of testing. Now, that is as it was announced on the 28th of April. So you'll see there 37 new tests completed. And 2 of those still pending. This morning, the Minister of Health announced that in the meantime, yesterday, another 69 tests were completed. So that 69, Jareen, also, that is the highest number of tests done in a single day since 13 March, when the first 2 index cases were reported in Namibia.
Is that then thanks to Old Mutual's new machines for the NIP?
I don't know specifically, but it might be. But at least it's positive that we're pushing up the numbers. This morning on Sky News, they were complaining in the UK as well that they're not testing enough people. And they're testing, I think, 7,000 people a day, but they want to test 10,000. Very quickly, the quarantine official numbers as on the 28th, which was Tuesday. Total numbers still in quarantine, 276. 64 people, new persons were quarantined and 10 discharged. In red there, just to show you 2 new regions listed for the first time, 4 people quarantined in Kunene and 18 in Omaheke. Those are all people returning via Botswana. That is in the case of Omaheke, and in Windhoek you'll see an additional 32. That includes the 31 people that returned with a flight
Like
from
yesterday.
from South Africa. And according to this morning's update, a lot of people were in the meantime also discharged again. We'll share that data online as it becomes available. Up next is scenes from other places in Namibia, and just a quick summary of the contributions. Kenya Kambawe in Rundu shared footage of the river patrols that will start on the Kavango River to patrol our borders. It also shows what traffic looked like in Rundu this morning. We have videos from Windhoek by Jana Marie Smith showing queues, and we'll get long queues.
Yes.
Also another look at what it looked like outside the Natus drive-thru in Windhoek today. Footage from Adolf Kaure from Swakopmund and from Leandria Low in Walvis Bay. There you will be seeing there the open market this morning, how empty it was early this morning and how they handed out protective gear yesterday. And we end off with a short clip from Oshakati by Eleni Nanjatu, where Ongwediva Medipark handed over 2 respiratory machines to the Oshakati State Hospital. Let's have it.
So the issue of cross-border, just crossing illegal on ungazetted points, it's not allowed. And so far now, both countries, us and Angola, our borders are closed, meaning there is no movement that must happen between us and Angola. Same vice versa, from Angola to here. But there are issues of essential services. Before I go there, there are members that are receiving treatments here that are at our side, at our brothers that are at the other side of Angola. Those ones, government has made arrangements that nurses from this side and nurses from that side meet at the border there at Sarasongo, whereas their names are written, and our staff nurses here take those things and give those medication to the Angolians, and they receive at their clinic at the other side. No need of crossing to come here. So that one already the health department and the other health department at the other side of Angola have been taken care of. The other thing is the issue of canoes that are on the river. Canoes, we are requesting the traditional authorities to talk to their members that these canoes must be taken out of the river. Either they can be centralized at one traditional authority where they can be registered that this is my canoe, it is kept here until such a time when this COVID-19 issue is going to be lifted up, if it is going to be uplifted. Otherwise, when we are patrolling and we get those canoes, we will pull the canoes up to the police stations. We will keep them.
Today is end of the month here in Rundu. So the police and the NDF step up in terms of beefing up the security, in terms of maintaining law and order during this lockdown. As you can see, all vehicles coming from the Karapamwe street going to town are being checked, whereby vehicle owners are being asked for their reasons for traveling and permits.
Where's our license? Because you people are driving with birth certificates.
You don't have a passport. What? And what are you doing here? Where are you going? What? Home, eh? We should not see you again traveling around this like. Yeah, we say stay at home.
She just went to buy sweets.
You must go straight home, eh? And keep the distance. Okay. 1 meter.
Er nou in die lens horen.
Waarom die mensen anders mensen betalen met die 5 cent? Die hele dag. Dat is waar, ja. Familie,
Thank you. The Ikutu open market in Gobabis has opened, but it's still early. There's only 2 traders here right now, but there's quite some strict regulations when it comes to operating here.
Namibia has really been experiencing a shortage of ventilators. Now here today we are to avail 2 Vela ventilators, monitors, suction units and emergency trolley to the Oshakati Intermediate Hospital to be used during this critical period. Now, as I mentioned before, this Vela or these ventilators are very expensive equipment, each of them valued at around 350,000 Namibian dollars. However, because we know how important they are and we know that we are in short supply of these ventilators, we felt that we need to combine these efforts and dedicate or contribute this to this fight when needed.
Interesting footage, Jareen. What stood out for you? What
My
would
goodness.
you single out, if you could single out just one thing?
Just one thing. I can single out a number, but I think the one that really took my breath away is the rows at Natus. Natus said yesterday that they would open for drivers and for vehicles of which the licenses had expired in the last month. And if you look at those rows, I wonder if they got through everything.
Yes,
It's really...
indeed. Just to clarify, in terms of the document issued, it seems all schools will only open on the 3rd of August. We've been hearing different messages up to now that there might be 2 different dates, one for secondary schools and one for primary schools. But the document also clearly indicates that all of these decisions will be reviewed as the health situation
Allows.
and our preparedness change in Namibia. So we'll have to wait and see if it's really 3 August.
Yes, well, that remains to be seen. Dani, I don't know, maybe you can answer this question. We had a question from Krista Marinda Maria Lissa from Swakopmund. She said she's a photographer. She'd like to know, may she actually proceed with her business?
And now in terms of the vague description, I think it definitely falls within that because it's a productive business.
Yes.
It employs people, hopefully.
Yes,
I think
and she
that's what
relies
they
on it
mean
for her
as well.
income.
and you rely on it for income. So I think the best advice, like we said, is over the weekend they should publish the regulations, and hopefully that will contain more detail in terms of specific categories of business and industry, which may reopen from a Tuesday already. I'll get to Greg. He's a journalist at the Republican, and he visited Gobabis today. So first we're going to show you a couple of scenes from Oshakati region. In other words, he spoke to the regional health director and visited one of the isolation centers there, and he also took a bit of footage about a very busy Gobabis on payday today, very busy, and he also spoke to a resident of the town. After that, we're going to play you the Skype interview we recorded earlier this afternoon with Algetu.
My name is Jeremiah Shikulo. I'm the Regional Director for the Ministry of Health and Social Services in Oshakati region. This is our isolation facility in Gobabis that we have identified, and we have equipped with beds and monitors, patient monitors, to be able to isolate suspected cases of COVID-19 or patients that are infected with COVID-19 that will need admission for isolation. Thank you.
Shipuna is known as Nogokore. We are at Gobabis, at PEP. We are doing fine, but this lockdown is not real good. We can see we are standing in the sun. It's very hot. Our kids are not even going in the shops to fit even clothes. Here at PEP, as we are talking now, there is no exchange. But if we want to buy like clothes for our kids, how can we buy? No exchange. Like if I buy a small size, no exchange. Big size, no exchange. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
What about food? Do you guys have enough
No,
food?
the food it's fine. It's fine. It's long now. So far at Kananzi, we are still waiting. Not yet get. Okay, we are still waiting. We are still coping. We are fine.
And things are alright at home? You're not tired of being in the house?
No, we are not tired. We are not tired. We are tired of roaming up and down. Okay.
Okay, anything you got to say for the other Namibians that are also going through lockdown?
Okay. Please, Namibians, take care. Stay home. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's time for our daily Skype interview, and today we are going all the way to Oshakati region. They call it Klein Texas in Afrikaans, and I'll get to Greg, our journalist from Republican, is in Gobabis this morning, this afternoon. Good afternoon, I'll get to.
Good afternoon, Danny. How are you, sir?
We are well in Windhoek. Now, you traveled to Gobabis this morning. Just tell us very shortly of the experience in terms of roadblocks that way, restrictions on traveling, and what you've experienced in the town itself thus far today.
Yeah, this morning I drove out to Windhoek just about 10 to 8, and I expected to be in Gobabis at around 10 o'clock, because sometimes normally it takes 2 hours. But I made it here at 11 because of the big roadblock which is set up outside, almost halfway between Windhoek and Gobabis. That's not one at the airport. The one at the airport is relatively a simple matter. You just pretty much drive through. But at the big one a bit further on, it will make you stop and you'll have to get out, present your papers and the reason why you are traveling. And then you'll go through the screening where they ask you some questions about where you come from, where you're going, and also take your temperature. And of course, there's a lot of emphasis on sanitizing your hands. But it can be a little bit of a tiresome process, so remember to take your patients along with you. When I arrived here in Gobabis, I was fortunate enough to meet up with the Director of Health for the Omaheke region, and he told me about the plan that the health officials have and are putting in place here in Omaheke about the various isolation units that they have set up and are equipping as we speak, and also about the quarantine from which a number of people, even today, another patient or Namibian who returned from abroad, who was placed in quarantine, is set to go out. They've had about 20 people in quarantine, but the number varies because you come in and you stay 14 days and then you go out. But in the town itself, life is going on as usual. Today is quite an active day in town. You can see people are out, there are queues, there are lots of cars on the streets, queues at the entrances to most of the shops, and everybody seems to be going about their business as usual. You wouldn't believe that this town is also on lockdown, but I guess that people are taking advantage of the hours when they may go ahead and take care of the necessities during the daytime, and especially considering the long weekend coming up. But definitely the anticipation is in the air. Everybody's waiting for next week when the lockdown will be lifted, hopefully, although we are all expecting to hear from the president soon.
Argeto, yes, of course, it is also payday today for those who haven't been paid from the 25th onwards already. So I suppose a lot of people are also stocking up in food and other essentials, and that is also, I think, why the town is quite busy, and I think we're seeing the same thing here in Windhoek and elsewhere in the country.
Well, definitely, there are definitely queues at all of the ATMs and all of the supermarkets that selling foodstuffs and other essentials are doing business, even though the global economy is struggling.
Are you...
yesterday on one of the news channels, I noticed that there are reports that there's a meat shortage in America. And considering that this is cattle country here, and I've seen a lot of prime cattle walking around in different areas of the town and on the farms, I think if we could get our act together, we could really take advantage of these opportunities.
Okay, that's a good point, but unfortunately also our meat exports has been affected by COVID-19. Lastly, just very quickly, people are moving around. Are you seeing proper social distancing at the supermarkets and shops, etc., or do you still see problems regarding social distancing?
Social distancing is well enforced in some of the more organized shops, some of the bigger places, especially when it comes to the area at the till and once you are trying to enter the door. But in general, amongst the community in general, just on the street, people are pretty much walking around and hanging out with their friends and standing around in small groups having conversations. There doesn't seem to be a lot of difference from a normal long weekend first day that one could expect. I haven't seen a lot of masks being worn. I haven't seen a lot of gloves being worn. And yeah, it seems that the hand sanitizing is pretty much your own responsibility. Each one looks after himself, except of course when you enter certain stores.
I'll get to thank you very much, and we wish you safe travel back to the capital city. Jareen, definitely in that one line we saw in the clip of a shop, there was no social distance.
Not even a little bit. But in the previous shots from the rest of the regions, it's the same thing. I think we as Namibians are very social people. For us, it is difficult not to embrace and not to be close to each other. I think that's the biggest challenge.
It's also a challenge, yes. 45 days plus. We've had a month and a half to adapt, and we are not really adapting, I think, fast enough.
Maybe it's because most of us were at home.
The property industry is obviously also a very big and important industry in Windhoek. In our interview today, we talked to Ben Jooste. He's the CEO of Oryx Properties. Today in our interview we have a special guest once again, Ben Jooste. He is the CEO of Oryx Properties, and property, Ben, is one of the sectors that has also been hit quite hard by COVID-19. To start off with, recently you announced rent relief for the businesses renting property with Oryx. Why did you decide to do that? And do you think others should do the same as well? Because if I have a house, I have a landlord, even if I rent, and we might think of Oryx as a very big landlord.
Yes, Danny, thank you for having me. Yes, Oryx made a principal decision to provide relief to a number of our tenants, and specifically and first and foremostly the retail sector. We've been engaging with our local peers in Namibia, as well as our international peers, which include the SAPOA and the SA REIT associations and groups. And these groups came up with a balanced guideline towards property companies whereby we can offer relief to our tenants or to specific retailers to have a balanced approach which looks after not only the tenants' interests but also the landlord's interests. We believe in this time there's so much uncertainty with regards to the lockdown, which we've had very positive news on, I think, today, that the only thing that is certain is that we can communicate with our tenants, and in those areas where we feel discretionary a requirement to give them that relief, to pass that on to the tenants. With this relief process or package, is certainly the largest relief or rental relief package that Oryx has in our history have offered to tenants. But I should also say that not all tenants qualify for it. It's really a discretionary, principle-based decision that we've taken, and specifically focused on the SME type of retailer, with the aim to protect jobs, to protect household incomes, and to give that retailer who's already on the back of a multi-year recession a bit of a breathing space in order for us all to get through this process.
Now, like you said, there were some good news this afternoon. State House announced that retail will be able to resume already on Tuesday, following strict health requirements, of course, and other retail as well. So it's not only the malls. Are your clients, do you think, ready at this stage for more people coming to the shops that might have been the case until now with the more strict lockdown?
Yes, no, I think it's a good question. So first and foremost, we've just also received this information, and we need to go and really filter through it and make sure that we understand it properly. And I think in the next few days, there'll be a lot more information released which we can make our individual decisions from. On the first hand, it certainly looks positive, and we support the government's approach, which is almost a risk-based approach to opening up the economy, which allows retailers who can ensure the very important measures in terms of social distancing for them to reopen. So we support that fully. And we also support not opening areas which have a high risk for the virus. So we support that fully. We've been very proactive as Oryx within all of our centres to increase our hygiene, safety measures and cleaning measures. From day one, we've had an intense cleaning operation that we've not seen, which is quite a bit better than what it was before. We've been having hand sanitizing stations at every entrance and exit for each shopper that enters the mall. We've been working with a lot of the retailers to enforce social distancing, which also includes free parking and not actually touching the equipment when you enter the premises. And we've been also very proactive with disinfecting the shopping centres at night and during the night hours, on a large scale. So I think we are prepared, certainly. However, what we are seeing is that some of these retailers that's just opened may have not had as much time as the grocers, as an example, and therefore their safety measures will improve, in the coming days. But I think it's exceptionally important that we all, stick to the rules and enforce this safety measures for the benefit of the public. Ultimately, from a shopping centre perspective, we provide a one-stop shop for all of the shoppers, and therefore we need to make sure that our shopping centres are safe, and that's exactly what we are doing.
Property is, like any business, an ecosystem consisting of different partners working together. Can you just mention in your business, who are these members of the ecosystem, and how are you currently communicating with all of these different partners?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think very relevant to this current situation. Specifically in the property industry, your ecosystem starts with your consumer, and whether your consumer has any disposable income. And thinking of the fact that we've been in retail for a while, in a recession for a while, the disposable income was already on very low levels. If the disposable income is there, the shoppers will support the retailers. The retailers obviously have a large commitment in terms of their stock levels, in terms of employing various people, and also in terms of paying their rent as one option, but also paying their rates and operational costs, which is where the council themselves come in. From a property company perspective, we are normally geared financially with the banks, so we have a large amount of debts, and we obviously need to satisfy and keep to our financial commitments as well on that side. And I think from a ecosystem perspective, what's happened is the fact that the consumer has not been able to shop, the retailer has not been able to trade, and therefore having difficulty in making rental payments has led us to the scenario where we felt in principle it's the right decision to give relief at this time. You asked about other property companies earlier on. I think it's very difficult to have a one-size-fits-all. Every company is in a different scenario, in a different financial status. But what we are encouraging is to have dialogues between property owners and tenants, and to find a mutually beneficial outcome for both parties.
Talking about banks, and we're not mentioning names, of course, have Oryx, for example, applied for relief and assistance from your banks? I suppose you might have more than one. And have you received a reply on that? We often hear from normal middle-class people that they are struggling to get assistance during COVID from banks, because they look at your credit worthiness, they put interest on it, etc., etc.
Yes, we have engaged with the banks since the initiative around COVID has started. Our initial strategy was to try and get relief from the banks, and then take that relief and pass it on to our tenants. And whilst we have been having a lot of engagement with the banks, and the banks have been engaging with us on various levels, we've not up until today had any formal financial relief from the banks. And therefore we've had to continue to make that decision based on our individual cash flows, as well as keeping in mind our financial commitments to the banks. Whether that will change in the next day or three or even a few weeks is yet to be seen, but the relief package that we've put in front of tenants is specifically for April, and not having including the fact that we've not had any relief from the banks thus far.
Ben, one last question, and you mentioned the recession going on since 2016 already. So the property industry, like many others, has faced headwinds for a couple of years already. And you know, a lot of people were speaking about a property bubble in the property markets, and COVID-19 is busy changing the world. Do you think the post-COVID property world is going to look a bit different from what it was beforehand?
Yes, certainly. It's not whether it would change, but how it is going to change. For certain. I think property as a long-term asset class is still fundamentally a long-term view, and therefore, you know, in the short term is going to certainly be, you know, under pressure. But there's also a positive approach, which is that it forces us as property owners to think, you know, of, you know, what the property industry will look like in the future, how we need to reinvent our assets to make it relevant to changing consumer patterns, and also look for opportunities that arise within this market to you know, to grow our income levels in the years ahead. But certainly I do agree with you. You know, we are all facing quite a challenging time and an unprecedented time at this point in time.
I think that goes for all of us, Ben, even us in the media. Thank you very much for coming to studio today, and we wish you all the best with all the preparations still needed to start full business, or at least a larger degree of business from Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That was Ben Jooste, CEO of Oryx Properties. Jareen, I really enjoyed that interview, and what struck me was this principle of an ecosystem. And every business is one like the media. I think there's no secret that the print media had to look at the number of pages.
Yes.
Our print runs were affected. It's a fact. Luckily, years ago, we started preparing on platforms like these, where you are seeing us now. And do you think it's an interesting time for every business in the world to try to innovate and change and reach people in new ways?
Definitely. I think at this stage it is a big challenge to everyone, but it also gives you the opportunity to think out of the box. And in spite of all the negativity and bad news, it is amazing that there are still people that are thriving in this time because they can give something that is needed.
But a lot of people are struggling. Someone commenting, I cannot pay my rent this month. What must I do? Hildegard Mukosho, we had a question from her, I think, earlier this week as well. And she's asking, what must she do? She only got $500 less than the emergency income grant from her employer. Her employer says no work, no pay. She asked, what must I do? And the social security money will also take some time yet to come. So Hildegard, in principle, you will have to report your case to the Office of the Labour Commissioner. But because of COVID, they're going to take long, unfortunately, to address it as well. So I would like to plea with all employers. I understand there are employers who cannot assist, but where you can assist, for example, your domestic workers and your workers, please do assist them.
Yes.
We're going to have at the end of the show a little bit of a mental tip about the whole issue of stress, but before that we're going to share our positive item for today, and it'll be a song. But artists, in the last week we started seeing these online concerts in Namibia as well, Jane.
Oh, yes, definitely. The Goethe Institute last Friday had Big Ben. This coming Friday, tomorrow evening, Lisa Ehrlich is doing a show from her home along with the DJ Loft. And on the 8th, there's another show again. So artists are also innovating at this stage because they also realize, you know, the source of income is gone. They really have to make a plan. What else are you going to do?
It's just another great example of innovation in difficult times. We used to show you just photographs and maybe video for positive vibes, but today we're going to share a song, and why we are sharing this song. First of all, this song was written by Jacob and Taylor for Namibia's 30th independence celebrations, which was in the month of March. And I think it really mentions the spirit that lays at the foundation of the creation of our country, and it summarizes it in different languages. And I think it just should inspire people also to, during this whole COVID-19 pandemic, Jareen,
Just stay positive.
just stay positive and go back to the principles which make Namibia. Enjoy, Jacob and Taylor.
The place is young and wild as this space, the beautiful untouched Namibian grace, the glory of our land rests in our precious hand. The faith that we must take is ours to make. Say it, baby, tangi wende. Oh, Africa, say tangi wende. Namibia, say Gai Gangas, Sangadamarandaman Africans, Oda Panula, Eshimwe Apo, Ongatero, Yongutukiro. Our land, the differences we must understand. It builds our nation in the end. The legacy we carry on, we move it up to the younger ones. This is our story, we write it every day. This is our story, we write it every day. It's the land of the brave, it's a place where we stay, where we live. I wanna die here, I'm digging my grave in the desert. We're holding hands while we're burning the sand. They said no, we won't go, we won't leave. This is our land, cause we're defined by our actions and not by our words. We're one nation, one strength, as you probably heard. We may be different people, but share the same color tears. We celebrate our independence for 30 years. They say, Tangi Unende, oh, Africa, say Tangi Unende. Namibia, say tangi unende. Oh, Africa, say tangi unende. Yeah, 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 yeah. Tangi unende. Oh, Africa, say tangi unende. When Namibia, say Gai Gangas, Sangadamarandaman Africans. Onda Pandula, Eshimwe Apo, Ongatero, Yongutukiro.
We have so much talent in Namibia, don't we,
Yes,
Jerry?
we do.
Amazing
reason to
talent.
celebrate.
Well, we're going to say bye, and after this comes a very nice insert with tips how to deal with stress. I think we're all having still a lot of stress, and it's going to continue. It's not going to stop because we are having more privileges from Tuesday. And Jareen, thank you very much for joining me today. A last fruit juice sparkly toast to everyone also. We hope you have a safe, long weekend. Please follow the rules during this lockdown, and join us 1 o'clock
on Tuesday
for
a new chapter,
our brand new news show, NMH at
1.
Chin chin. Lovely long weekend.
Hi Namibia, we are here as a mental health team talking to you as Edwina Mensah-Hesselman, clinical psychologist of Geluk Psychology Services. We are here to talk about a very, very important topic, stress in the COVID-19 times. And I'm here to coach you very briefly on how to manage your stress in this time. Now, what is stress? Stress is something physical, it's mental, and it's emotional, and it causes bodily or mental tension, and it comes from our external environment, all the demands on us, on all the worries, and it's also coming from our internal, what we think and what we feel about what happens to us. It can also be due to some fight or flight response in terms of, is there a real threat? Do we feel threatened physically or mentally or emotionally? We feel challenged. Stress can cause or influence the course of many medical conditions, including psychological conditions such as depression and anxiety. And so it can give us a high blood pressure, poorly controlled diabetes, and many other conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, for example. We can feel run down, we can feel overwhelmed, we can also worry a lot regularly, and we may develop chronic stress. We can identify stress by major life changes, like today in COVID-19, that we may be laid off, we don't have money, we don't have the money to put the bread on the table. We can have childbirth, marriage, which is a positive thing, can also cause stress. Divorce, death of a loved one in the COVID-19, we may lose people to death. Change of jobs or retirement. The environment, the pollution, the lack of natural resources in Namibia, unpredictable events like the COVID-19, trauma and life-threatening events like the COVID-19, workplace deadlines, office politics, burnout, retrenchment, like I said, in disciplinary actions. And socially, crime can now rise. We have seen it in other countries with COVID-19. Traditional obligations and politics can stress us. Internally, our own fears, which many face. We can feel like failure, we can fear it, and we can fear also rejection and a lack of self-worth and doubt. And our beliefs, are we pessimistic in these times? Are we unrealistic in our expectations? Are we busy with perfectionism and negative self-talk and thinking? And also our uncertainty and lack of control. By being too busy, we are having a gruesome schedule these days with all the expectations, inability to accept our uncertainties, and we are unable to provide solutions. Now, how do we manage the stress? We can reduce or avoid the identified stress, prepare to work against it, adopt a healthy lifestyle and habits and strategies to counteract your stress. And we can also practice relaxation techniques such as rhythmic breathing, in with the nose and out with the mouth. We can build a support network, positive attitude, and we can express ourselves, and we should know our limits, and we should manage our time and to-do list, and we should reframe our problems in our mind, and we should also control our environment and take charge and accept the things that we can't change and change the things that we can accept. And I think that is a wrap in COVID-19, how to deal with stress in Namibia. Stay stress-free because stress kills. This is all from Geluk. Goodbye.